Hi there. Today I want to talk to you about disruption, about technology in general, and basically how it is technology changes have altered the direction of my company. And I want to talk to you about the importance of people. We'll start with a little bit of story. In 2006, I was pitching a social media solution to a large company out on the West Coast, and I told them $60,000. I'm going to monitor everything that's going on for you. I'm going to send you detailed intelligence reports to understand what your product's doing, what your competitors are doing. And they loved the idea until they went and looked up and said, oh, by the way, we already have a technology that does this. It's called BuzzLogic. I think it's called BuzzLogic. They were spending $100,000, $120,000 a year on a social media monitoring software back in 2006. It was fine, but no one ever looked at it. What I was offering was detailed intelligence. The truth is, I should have been using BuzzLogic to give them the intelligence. But they were willing to spend twice as much on a technology that no one looked at, as opposed to paying someone whose job it was to tell them what they should be looking at. And that makes sense, because technology is a thing, and a consulting contract's a person. You get in trouble for hiring people. You feel weird because you're giving them all this money. Paying a technology company, that's nothing. That's just how business is done in general. People like to have things. And budgets for technology aren't cut in the same way that a budget for a person is. It's more, you buy a contract, you can sign it for 3 years, you're stuck with it. You hire a person, or even as a consultant, and someone cuts the budget, you cut that person out. So that's just how things are sold. But the point is that this technology that was awesome at the time, that cost $120,000, wasn't as good as what I was able to deliver as a person. Fast forward a few years, and those same things are actually, I mean, you could have done it for almost free using Google Alerts and RSS readers. It was interesting because technology itself, it moves a lot faster now. What you're capable of monitoring online is crazy. But the people themselves still don't know how to use it correctly. In fact, you look at that with social media monitoring softwares now, like Sprinkler and Radiant 6 and all these others. You still got to train someone to use them. So people will pay money for the software, but training them, they don't want to do that. It's true everywhere. CRMs, you know, companies that spend $1 million on a CRM. Imagine what you could do with $1 million of training your sales force. For those of you who understand the power of sales training, oh my God, that would make a huge impact for you. But then your salespeople might leave, or they might not get it, or might be wasted. Versus buying the CRM, now you have something. See, the thing is, the technology gets better, but people aren't getting smarter. We're not evolving as fast as technology. Whether it's just not something that really happens. So the problem that we face in general is that as technology gets bigger, we don't know how to use it. I'll give an example for myself. I used to shoot a video. I created video DVDs to train people. I've done thousands of webinars, or trained thousands of people in webinars. And I said, hey, the webinar's live, and sometimes it goes bad, and sometimes I'm off that day. You know, there's 5 minutes where I'm not doing as well. What if I took 90 minutes and made it perfect? Shot chapters, planned it out, rehearsed it, really did it well. So I talked to some video guys, and one guy wanted to sit behind me with a camera on a tripod and record the screen while I talked. Would have cost me tens of thousands of dollars. Another guy wanted to record the screen. We found there was a screen recording software called Camtasia, and then he was going to audio roll it. I actually couldn't buy Camtasia because it didn't have it for the Mac at that point, but I found a cheaper version called I Show You, which was $40 versus Camtasia, which was $400. So right away, 40 did the same thing for $400. I was able to just create my screens. He sat there with a microphone while I typed out, and then he put the audio track in with the video. $700 for a really bad product. And then I bought my own board and my mic, and I talked to my wife, who said, why don't I just code it in Flash? Because that was the other aspect. When you mix the audio and the video and you create an actual DVD that loads up, it's really clunky and not good. Audio tracks never synced up because it's expensive to do, right? Versus shooting I Show You, I could shoot it again and again and again and again, pick the one I wanted, instead of editing it, just shoot it till I got it right. But I didn't have a cost of a guy behind me. So I went from tens of thousands of dollars to $700 to a fixed cost of about $500 that I could do everything I wanted. That's the difference of technology. We ended up selling about $40,000 of those DVDs, and surprisingly to me, people preferred the webinars over the actual disc in their hand. Same content, better content on the DVD even. Record it and you own it, and you don't have to think about it, but people like the webinars because they felt it was a person talking to them. And they felt the DVD was just something else. Never fully understood that. But the point being is that technology is expensive, and then you have to learn to implement it. The real cost, of course it's prohibitive to have the guy standing behind me, but the real cost to me was what it took for me to learn to record, to speak correctly, to not move my hand on the mouse so I don't change the screen. I had to learn a brand new skill before any of the technology made sense. And that's where we are today. Do you know you can run your entire company on your phone? I do. I sign bills, I send bills, I sign them, I do invoices, I do payroll. Everything I need to do actually runs off my phone, so I don't even use my desktop for any of that stuff anymore. I have a small business though. Some of these bigger companies though, even smaller ones with their servers sitting in their, they're running a mail server out of their office, or they've got $100,000 invested in their infrastructure. In 2 years, everything they have will be able to run off these phones, and it'll seem crazy to have all that infrastructure, except for the fact they already sunk that cost. And that's what technology does. The problem is that how do you get people to use their phone to run the company? How do you train yourself to do so? It doesn't do you any good if technology is great if you don't know how to use it. So just as I had to learn to use video before the technology changes, I had to catch up to the technology changes. The social media monitoring people, even though they have great technology now, have to train people on how to get that information and figure out what to do with it. And the mobile folks in general have to get their salespeople and others learning to use their phones. Imagine that as his case study. I'm going to buy an $800 iPhone, and I'm going to learn to play Angry Birds so that I carry it with me all the time. But in 2 years, I'll get gigantic productivity demands. I bet you there's a case to be made for that. I don't think anybody would buy it, even though it's true. But that's a different story. The point is that we're not evolving. We're not. Technology is expanding, and you can do all these new things, but we don't know how to use it. And so the question becomes, if something costs you $100,000 today, like a mobile app that runs portions of your company, a CRM, mobile app CRM, you spend all this money on it, and it won't work the way you want it to, and even if it did, your people won't use it. Versus if you waited 2 years, the technology is so good that $100,000 becomes almost nothing. And by the way, this is not just pie in the sky stuff. You buy a big expensive CRM now, you could pay Salesforce $25 to get most of the functionality that you're paying for. Yeah, it's in the cloud. There's issues of privacy and other things being hacked and all those questions. But the reality is Salesforce is so cheap in comparison to buying your own CRM. It doesn't matter because your salespeople aren't using it anyway. So how do you get your people to begin to adapt and change? I couldn't pay $20,000 to get some guy to shoot, but when technology was cheap enough, I was able to invest my time to get better at video. And honestly, it's really paid off. Not only have I been able to shoot for other companies, I understand video better now. And don't let this fool you with the lighting and all this stuff. I'm down in an office. I didn't set up my studio. But there is a difference between good audio, how to do it correctly, how to shoot webinars. My webinars have exploded. My video business exploded. I'm producing a web series. All because I started years ago practicing and learning. I altered myself once the technology got to a certain place. So when you're thinking about what you're going to buy and you're thinking whether or not you should launch a new initiative, or just when you think of the spending of your company and you're doing your future planning, the question you have to ask yourself, and it really does come down to mobile, what are you doing to train your current employees and yourself to pick up skills that will be useful for the new technology? Is it video? Is it monitoring? Is it, it's like learning typing. What good is a computer if you don't know how to type? If you're used to, like I am, doing your recruiting on a piece of paper, what good is it for typing? I'm a social media headhunter. I'm an expert in social media. And yet, I've never found an ATS that really works for me based on the type of work that I do. It's just faster to do it on paper. Imagine having computers and not being able to type, or having phones and not being able to text because your fingers are not a 14-year-old's. So think of it like this. You need to be investing in yourself and your employees, and you have to give them baby steps to get them used to the new technology. It's not all about buying the tech. Don't be fooled into thinking that because there's a contract and there's something you can hold on to, that that's the best value of what you're getting. Years later, that company that existed has all new types of social media software. They're paying for all new different types, but they never used the one they had. And I always go back and I wonder, are they using it now? I know they're paying more for it. Are they getting any value for their technology investment? Versus what would have been the impact if we were able to dig into the intelligence reports and hand them over to them? I know that I got good at it, and that launched my career. I wonder what would have happened for that company. Okay, more later.